address these issues. The issue of the exchange rate needed to be fixed and sorted out as a matter of urgency. How do you sort the exchange rate? You sort the exchange rate, Madam Speaker, ma'am, by allowing the multiple currency regime to operate, which he has done. But secondly, Madam Speaker, ma'am, you allow the Zimbabwean dollar to float, remove the controls of the Zimbabwean dollar and let the market find a normal stability point.
The headlines are screaming. Zim dollar in a record crash. Zimbabwe heads for an election in the next few months. And the economy is in a tailspin. So Parliament is also dealing with electoral amendment law. And the people of Zimbabwe, who Parliament represents, are also dealing with this situation, an economy in a tailspin. Now, on this, the Free Talk, we are going to be discussing Zimbabwe's path to an election in August and how it will battle this economy is an item on the agenda on the poll. Now, join me on this, the Free Talk, in proud partnership with the Frederick Newman Foundation and HSTV. I am your host as usual, Dara Blessed Mflanga. Let's join me after this break. Thank you very much for joining me on this, the Free Talk, in proud partnership with the Frederick Newman Foundation for Freedom. And we are going to be discussing the economy, politics, and people on this program. And I am joined by the CCC Vice President, former Finance Minister, and Honorable Member of Parliament for Harare East, and also a human rights lawyer, Biti. Thank you very much, Honorable, for joining me.
Good afternoon, Dara.
Beautiful. Now,
Good to see you.
it's a pleasure seeing you as usual. Honorable Biti, just let us start from the legal perspective of issues. Now, we saw your picture late at night dealing with the Electoral Amendment Law. Now, let us talk about that first.
Yes. The Electoral Amendment Bill, HB 43 of 2022, was eventually tabled before Parliament. So late on Thursday evening and early morning on Friday, we were debating committee stage amendments to that bill. We haven't concluded. We will conclude from Tuesday, the 30th of May. The key issues on the table are the following. Number one, our demand that there must be security of the vote. Our demand that there must be security of the voter. Our demand that there must be transparency around the ballot. Who is printing it? Where and how many. Our demand around simplicity of the electoral challenge system. Our demand, perhaps most importantly, for diaspora vote. These are the issues that we will be bending the candle, arguing and debating in Parliament in the last week.
Before we get to the meat and all of these issues, is there an appetite to have these changes, critically given that your numbers in Parliament are inferior to that of the ruling party?
I think that there's clearly no appetite for reform from the government, which is why 10 years after the enactment of our constitution in 2013, most laws remain unharmonized with the constitution. And human rights lawyers like myself have had to take clause after clause, provision after clause of different statutes to the Constitutional Court saying this is unconstitutional, it needs to be harmonized. Having said that, however, I want to acknowledge Minister Ziambi that once the bill was tabled and we started debate in Parliament last week, there's been a level of accommodation. I'm not saying we're going to get what we want, but there's been some level of give and take. Just to give you one example, one of the things that the bill was seeking to take away was the right that Zimbabweans have now, that you can actually vote using your license as a means of identification. The bill was going to take away, but we argued, and so it has remained. And I hope that come next week, that spirit will continue. So in short, yes, there is no appetite for reform, but at least the spirit inside the chamber, inside the National Assembly, is one that let's talk, let's give and take. And when you adopt that spirit, it doesn't matter the weight of numbers. It is the weight of logic. And certainly we carry the weight of logic. They carry the weight of numbers. And so negotiation means you're trying to reconcile and bring together the weight of logic and the weight of numbers. People have also always argued, and this has been a cycle in Zimbabwe, always electoral issues are done on the eve of an election. When people get into an election, they don't really understand these changes. Why is this always happening? I think it's most unfortunate. It's a characteristic of our political landscape. It's a characteristic of our political polity that these things are always done last minute. You recall when Prime Minister Changirai was still alive, that for the 2008 elections, we literally had the amendments to the Electoral Act in February, on the eve of the election in February of 2008, when the election was on March 28. 2008. Now history is reproducing itself again. It's most unfortunate because if you recall the 2018 election, there were so many election observer missions. They came up with a total of 49 recommendations. 49 recommendations. That's 5 years ago. That's 5 years ago. But no one bothered to try and push those recommendations into law. And for the opposition, it's very difficult because you don't control the legislative agenda. So I hope that going after 2023, we should hit the ball running and amend to all the things that need to be done, harmonizing of our current laws to the new to the not so new constitution, attending to various legal reforms, including electoral reforms.
Among your demands, you spoke about security of the vote and security of the voter. Now, just about a month or two ago, former Vice President and Vice President of ZANU-PF, Kembo Mohadi, made a statement during opening of a hospital in Mondoro Mbaiwa, when he said that they have been meeting with chiefs, and these chiefs have been instructed to wait in line and ensure that all of their people from their book or head have voted before they vote. And you're talking about discussing security of the voter. Let's talk about this, Honorable.
This is actually an issue that we have proposed an amendment to the Electoral Act. Traditional leaders need to be protected. Traditional leaders need to enjoy the constitutional protection that they actually enjoy. Namely that they are independent of politics. Namely that they cannot and should not be weaponized. Namely that they are chiefs for everyone. They are chiefs for communities and not a particular political party.
But there's a law already.
So there's a law already, but we want to strengthen that law. We want to strengthen that law so that these kind of things where traditional leaders are actually asked to be complicit in a typical illegal practice or an election corrupt practice are done away with it. And it's not just the issue of the weaponization of traditional leaders. Also the weaponization of food and food inputs. Also the weaponization of illiteracy. Illiteracy is weaponized in that disability, in that assisted voters are now suddenly become an election challenge in Zimbabwe. In 2018, 62% of the voters in Mashonaland Central were assisted voters. So you find a headmaster that would have taught you when you're in grade 1, suddenly moving in as an assisted voter. So part of the amendments we have proposed is how do we de-weaponize illiteracy and disability so that assisted voters are not taken advantage of. How do we deal with the issue of inputs and coercion through food inputs, and how do we protect traditional leaders so that they are not made to be part of the infrastructure of election rigging and election manipulation.
You also spoke about a look into the diaspora war. Now, ZANU-PF has consistently resisted on the basis of sanctions. What do you think has changed?
Well, I think it's the most contested issue. For ZANU-PF, it's a life and death issue, and it's clear. It's clear. We put up a fight, and we have said to our colleagues in ZANU-PF, if your problem is the Western world, where you feel you might be disadvantaged, and I underline the word feel because we know that there's freedom. Only last week, President Mnangagwa was at the coronation. Our president was not even there at the coronation. As I'm talking to you right now, President Mnangagwa is Shamal al-Sheikh. So he travels more than our president, Advocate Nelson Chamisa. Muntuli goes to Washington every second week. So I don't see the disadvantage. But assuming they have a problem with the rest of the world, they have no problem with China, they have no problem with India, they have no problem with Southeast Asia. Open it up. But perhaps that is even too far. We are prepared to accept a compromise where, as a starting point, because we're only a few months away from the 2023 election, we are prepared to accept a situation where you allow the diaspora vote in the SADC region. And two, you restrict it to the presidential vote alone. So if there was political will, surely they would allow that. Then parties are free to campaign in Botswana, in Mozambique, in Mauritius,
But what is your interest really in advocating for this diaspora vote? Do you think you don't have enough numbers at home to win this poll?
It's about the rights of citizens.
But if you then...
It's about the right of citizens. The Constitution in section 67 says every citizen, and we have more than 4 million citizens outside Zimbabwe, and there is no one, as I submitted in Parliament to the Minister of Justice, even you, the Minister of Justice, you have children and grandchildren that are in Australia, and the Constitution allows multiple citizenship, not dual citizenship, multiple citizenship. So let us respect the spirit of the Constitution and respect the rights that these citizens have, the rights of choosing, the rights of voting, the rights of participating in politics. But it goes beyond that, Dara. This country is receiving diaspora remittances of $1.6 billion US annually. And with the economic meltdown, the great tax will increase. The burden of responsibility on the diaspora will increase. So I suspect that in 2023 and 2024, diaspora remittances will exceed the $2 billion mark. You cannot have taxation without representation. Diaspora remittances are a tax, a great tax. The diaspora is being forced to look after us because of a fragile and vulnerable economy. Surely allow them to vote. So you can, on one hand, celebrate the increasing diaspora remittances, but deny this important component of our society the right to vote.
Yeah, but in your compromise, you then compromise to allow those in Africa to vote, but deny the rights of those outside Africa, but still Zimbabweans. But you are talking about a constitutional right that says every Zimbabwean.
That's why we're going for everyone. But if administrative difficulties force them to plead that we can only retain Africa, then with the time that is left, we'll accept that incremental increase. When you fight dictatorship, you must learn how to fight the dictatorship. You fight on a small scale, you beg that gain, and you move on to fight the next fight. That's what we've been doing in the last 20 years.
You also spoke about the ballot, printing of the ballot. And this was a sticking and major issue in the 2018 general elections again. What do you think has changed?
Look, the world has moved on. The world has moved on. There's openness and transparency about these things in every other country. I have witnessed elections. I've been an election observer in Somaliland. I've been an election observer in the election in Kenya of August 2022 that ushered in President William Ruto. I've been an election observer in the recent election in Lesotho that ushered in Prime Minister Sam Makatana. These things should not be an issue at all. Should not be an issue at all. So the standard now is that all political parties, number one, they sign off to the voters' roll. The voters' roll is audited, and all of you sign off, off it. Here, the voters' roll is secret, even though one political party has it. You can't run elections that way. Number two, all political parties witness the printing of ballot papers. They will know that this company is printing the ballot papers. So in Kenya, for instance, ballot papers were printed, I think, in German, and a group of members of parliament went to Germany to witness the ballot papers being printed. Surely we can do that. Data will then be released on the logistics of the ballot paper. How many have been sent to Mashonaland West Province, Mashonaland East Province? Surely, we can't be that behind. Every other country now, including every other country now has biometric voter registration, and we are saying, for all intents and purposes, our voter registration is biometric. They take our fingerprints. They take our fingerprints. So if that is the case, there must be a biometric register made available to all the election agents, to all the candidates, and so forth.
ZEC has pleaded security issues around that.
You see, number one, it is the law. What is the secret about the ballot for voters law? After all, and this is most unfair, they are allowing it access to another political party. Only a few weeks ago, Mr. Mnangagwa sent a text message virtually to every Zimbabwean, including myself. I actually got two. I actually got one for Harare Central, saying we know you're in Harare Central, and then I got one for Mount Pleasant, because I was registered in Highlands. Highlands is now part of Ward 7, which is Mount Pleasant. So I got a message from Mr. Mnangagwa for Ward 7, meaning they've got the latest voters roll designed according to the final delimitation exercise. Yet we are being denied access to the voters roll. You can't run an election on an uneven and unequal basis. It's like playing tennis, which is changing baseline. If I'm serving, the length between me and the net is very small. If I'm receiving, you can't do that. Unfortunately, that's what they're doing.
Still on that, ZEC has been registering voters, and there has been a major involvement in this voter registration process, an organization called FAS. And even at ZANU-PF rallies, there has been registration just there. How does this play out as we go for an election?
It's an issue we are definitely going to raise in Parliament. You cannot create parallel institutions when we have formal institutions. So FAS has been involved in ZANU-PF primaries. FAS is involved in heritage, is involved in the national election. So you can't have a shadowy creature getting involved in processes that have legitimate constitutional bodies that are supposed to carry out the function. We have a traditional intelligence that is recognized by the Constitution. What then is FAS? We have a legitimate military recognized by the Constitution in section 206, 207, 208, 209, 212. What is this creature called heritage? So these informal creatures that are unconstitutional must be disbanded, so that formal creatures and institutions recognized in terms of the Constitution are allowed to run their job. This government cannot create national insecurity by creating parallel structures that challenge and compete with formal institutions created in terms of the Constitution.
But you speak about the security and you speak about the military, and you made this to FAS and heritage. What is the relation?
Our understanding is that FAS is a creation of the intelligence, and heritage is a creation of the military intelligence. But the military intelligence is already there, MIT, formally. The intelligence is, the CIO is there, already there, formal. So we are saying these institutions are known and they are accountable. They are accountable to the executive. What are these FAS and what are these heritage? So let's stick to the Constitution. The creation of parallel structures is what is causing the civil war in Sudan, because a parallel army was created called the Rapid Force, the RPF, Rapid Patriotic Force, the RPF. And right now the war in Sudan is being fought between the formal army and the RPF. And that's a problem. When you create parallel structures, you are sowing the seed of instability. And so we cannot afford to create parallel structures.
If someone was to argue that the debate that's happening in Parliament right now over the electoral reforms is just a talk show because you're not going to win anything significant in these reforms, what would you say?
I would disagree. I would disagree vehemently. You have been a witness of the way we have been, working. Let's start with the budget process. You have seen us in committee stage debating the finance bill, and we've extracted major, concessions. As I have said before, yes, Parliament is a quantitative. The majority is important. But ultimately, it's a cerebral process. It's the strength of your argument. And we have demonstrated quite significantly in the last number of years that at the end of the day, the ultimate issue is the quality of the argument. Are you able to present something which the other side will appreciate its force? Which is why in most debates, you are not able to tell the difference between ZANU-PF MPs and Triple C MPs because of the quality of the debate. Oftentimes you have people like Chinotimba, Honorable Chinotimba, people like Dexter Nduna supporting our position purely and simply because of the quality of the debate. So it's about issues. What we've managed to do in Parliament is to raise the bar so that it becomes a forum dominated by issues and issues and issues. And when you have an issue-centric Parliament, you can drive an agenda.
But you've tried to raise issues, to have an issue-centric Parliament, and you've been blocked. Recently, we saw a document or a memo from the Speaker of the House of Assembly, Jacob Mdenda, barring an inquiry into the gold mafia.
Yeah, but we went to war, and the very next day that the Speaker was in the House, he considered and did a U-turn because of the force of what we were submitting. So the lesson, what is the lesson? The lesson is that MPs must be sharp, MPs must be researched, MPs must be sharp, must be researched, and MPs must understand what the community out there is saying. It's a qualitative process. You can't stand up and argue against the macroeconomic instability when you don't have your data, your figures, you don't know the statutory instruments. But when you can tackle the issue from a data-centric and issue-centric, a cerebral point of view, you can carry the day.
I want us to move to the economy.
Yes.
Honorable Biti, or should I call you Prophet Biti? Because last year around towards the festive holidays, I sat next to you and we spoke about our currency, and you prophesied or predicted that the currency is going to fall right around June.
Yes.
But it appears it has happened a little bit earlier.
Yes. Well, the parallel exchange rate has collapsed by 400%. A few weeks ago, 1 million Zimbabwean dollars would buy you 1,000 US dollars. Right now, as I'm talking to you, it's around 4,500. The official exchange rate has collapsed from 1,000 US 1 to 1,400 to 1,800. Only yesterday, Black Friday, 24 May. So it's a collapse of 26% in literally one day. So you can't run away. You can't hide from the exchange rate. The exchange rate is the strongest expression of the quality of your governance. And in this case, the absence of your governance, the absence of leadership, the absence of craft competence. It is the most honest indicator of failure, that followed with its twin cousin of inflation. So you can't cheat the exchange rate. You can't cheat the rate of inflation. The rate of inflation right now, as I'm talking to you, is now back to month-in-month inflation of over 80%. Prices, if you go to OK Bazaars, prices are being changed. When you are going to the queue, go to OK Bazaars. Pick and Pay is a little bit slower, but OK Bazaars prices are changing when you are going into the
This is a regime change agenda, isn't it?
It's a regime change agenda, and the blaming businesses the regime is doing is anti-Christ, it's anti-logic, it's insanity. You have mismanaged the exchange rate. You have mismanaged the exchange rate. There is no trust in the Zimbabwean dollar. We told you when you introduced it way back in 2019, when you introduced such an instrument, 33 of 2019, that material conditions for the restoration of the Zimbabwean dollar did not exist. You thought we were being political. Fast track 2 years later is now proved that material conditions do not exist. Zimbabweans have rejected the Zimbabwean dollar ad infinitum. And as I always say, the Zimbabwean dollar was caught with its pens down in flagranto. The people of Zimbabwe have rejected the Zimbabwean dollar, which is why all cash transactions are conducted in US dollar, 90% of them. The other day I said to Mtuli Ngube, show me the Zimbabwean dollar you have. He ran away from parliament. So it's mismanagement of the exchange rate, which has brought us to where we are.
But why is it going all so sudden haywire just a few months away from elections when you didn't do the same in 2021, 2020? Why?
Three things. Number one, there's been an oversupply of local money in the market. The government opened the taps. They've been paying the contractors on the Harare Bay road. They've been paying maize farmers. They've tried to clear off maize farmers. So the taps have been open. So when these contractors receive that money, they go on the black market to purchase the US dollar. So it's basic economics, demand and supply. It's overheating, it's a crisis of accumulation, too much money chasing too few goods. So you've got so many RTGS dollars that are facing a few Zimbabwean dollars. So that has contributed in the last few weeks. And this is not the first time. Remember, July of 2019, we had this spike because there was a release by Sekunda of treasury bills onto the market, and the rate struck. The Reserve Bank actually temporarily suspended Sekunda account. That's number one. Number two is corruption. They don't underestimate the impact of the gold mafia, the impact of these helicopters, the impact. So corruption has contributed to the lack of confidence. Number three is what always happens when you have failure. Failure initiates self-replicating behavioral change. So I'll increase the price of my good because I anticipate that when I go to refill, when I go to restock, the price would have gone up. So it becomes self-replicating chaos. Everyone goes into a protective mode as they did in 2008. Because remember, this is the third or fourth time that people have been hit hard. 2008, 2019, 2022, now, déjà vu, May 2023. Three factors.
But Minister Mtuli has indicated that our import receipt has increased, so we are earning more foreign currency. It's also indicated that the economic indicators are good. So why is our local currency failing?
I have absolutely no respect for Mtuli Ngube because he doesn't have respect of the truth. He doesn't care about the people of Zimbabwe. And while theoretically he understands economics, he's not honest enough and bold enough to say, this is the right thing I'm doing. He has become a conscious instrument of the cartels that are running this economy. So I have absolutely no respect for him. But coming back to the indices that he talks about, yes, on paper, our imports have gone up to $11 billion, which is very impressive. But what he doesn't do is to disaggregate, to say, but where is this $11 billion coming from? And when you disaggregate, you will find that the bulk are coming from something called any others. When you do economics, when you disaggregate, if you earn $400, you will say rent, you will say school fees, you will say food, you will say transport, then you will say any other miscellaneous, which will probably 1%. But when your any other is bigger than all the other line, there's something wrong. So his any other is bigger in the basket of his imports because it's money laundering. It's money that is coming into this country in shadowy elements. We saw the gold mafia and others. So the true value of the true imports is not $11 billion. It's much, much smaller. But there's a lot of money that is coming in, and we see it at Borodo same level. We see Lamborghinis. The other day, someone bought 3 cars for almost $2 million. That's the grey import that he's taking into in the current account. So in short, the fundamentals are skewed because when you mismanage the exchange rate, then you've got all these distortions. But there's another factor, and this factor is causing this currency to slide. Is the existence of a huge parallel economy where money laundering, illicit financial flows is dominant. That sector is doing well. Tobacco smuggling, $1 billion US dollars. Fuel smuggling, almost another $1 billion US dollars. The shenanigans around the US dollar, the US dollar itself is a commodity. Gold smuggling, lithium smuggling. Lithium has become a major source of illicit financial flows. Tons and tons and tons of our lithium are being smuggled through Forbes border post in Manicaland. And you know, Dara, that the people who are smuggling this lithium are the who's who of Zimbabwe. So when you have got a mafia economy run by cartels, you have what in English is called a kleptomanic state. But when you have incompetent people running that state, it's what in the English language is called a kakistocracy, a government of the West run by the West who steal. So the combination of kleptomania and kakistocracy is an equation that I can't even go into. That are blessed.
But these people that you accuse of incompetence have massive support, and they're giving you sleepless nights as a political party.
Dara blessed. They are not sleeping at Munutapa building. The most popular person in Zimbabwe is Advocate Nelson Chamisa. The latest polls are showing that he will win this election 76% hands down. The Yellow Movement was only formed hardly a year ago, but it is causing havoc. The people are ready for change. The people can't stand the impoverishment. The people can't stand the pauperization that 79% of the population is surviving on less than US $1.25 a day. So this election is about survival. This election is about self-defense. Children are not going to schools. Hospitals don't even have a paracetamol.
No, but hospitals have helicopters. The ZANU-PF has managed to deliver brand new cars for MPs, and we saw brand new cars being delivered to ZBC. I mean, we saw helicopters coming to aid our medical institutions. And you're saying there's poverty. That doesn't smell like poverty too?
Yes. What you are saying is proof that there is an economy out there that is serving a few elites, that looks after the few elites. The helicopters are private taxis for the elites as they campaign in this election. The helicopters are private taxis for ballot stuffing and the ballot manipulation. We have seen this and we know this. That ZANU-PF can buy over 800 vehicles in a country where children in places like Mzarabani, where I've been working, are sharing one textbook per entire block is a crime against humanity. The truth of the matter is that if you look at our indices, Zimbabwe statistics whether it's maternal mortality rates, infant mortality rate, the ratio of one child, the ratio of a child per textbook, the distance that a child has to walk to a school, the ratio of a teacher to pupils, the ratio of a doctor to patients, the ratio of a nurse to patients. All these statistics resemble that of war-torn countries like Somalia, Mogadishu, Somaliland, Yegisa, and Djibouti, Somalia, South Sudan, and Eritrea. It's a dog's breakfast, but one which not many dogs will touch, not by a long mile.
On your social media handle on Twitter, you spoke about the economy being an issue in this election. And immediately, those from ZANU-PF saw this tweet as an admission by your party that you want to use the economy to dislodge the popular government of Emerson Dambudzo Mnangagwa as president.
I don't think you can use the word popular in the same line with President Mnangagwa. I think it's a contradiction in terms. But coming specifically to your question, people are crying, Dara. People are crying. People don't have food. Their salaries have just been eroded. I saw a letter only yesterday written by staffers at Zim Papers complaining about their conditions. Teachers are not going to school. Nurses are not going to school. All these are economics. The average individual Zimbabwean can't reproduce himself from day 1 to day 2. We're just talking about food here. What about water, which is not there? What about electricity, which is not there? What about the conditions of our roads? We resemble war-torn Liberia. We resemble war-torn Sierra Leone. With great respect to the DRC, we are the pothole capital of the world. We are the blackout capital of sub-Saharan Africa. 44 years after independence, it's not good enough that we have people dying of cholera. With people dying of typhoid across the length and breadth of the country. It's not good enough, Dara. We can do better. Today is Africa Day. I can tell you that Chairman Herbert Chitepo is standing in his grave. Nikita Mangena is standing in his grave. Joshua Nkabuko Nkomo is standing in his grave. Even Robert Gabriel Mugabe is standing in his grave. Benjamin Burombo is standing in his grave.
But Honorable Biti, you speak about the bad roads, you speak about poor water supply. You run local authorities. You have road authorities in Harare, in Kwekwe, in Bulawayo, in all major cities. And the roads there are bad. You are failing, aren't you?
The election of councillors in urban councils, when the Urban Councils Act has not been harmonized to take away power from the Minister of Local Government. The Minister of Local Government, in terms of Section 314 of the Urban Councils Act, has got powers of issuing any directive, reversing any directive made by a local authority. We've just challenged that in the Constitutional Court. They can't even employ whoever they want. It has to be approved by the local government board, again controlled by the Minister of Local Government. Their budget can't even be approved. It has to be approved by the Minister of Local Government. Procurement, they can't even procure. It has to be approved by the state procurement board. They can't borrow to attend to the capital issues that you are talking about, because remember, their budget is just for recurrent. But for capital projects like lights, electricity, they need approval of the Minister of Finance and approval of the Minister of Local Government. Yet the Constitution is very clear in Chapter 14 that local authorities should be run by those that are elected. The law has not been harmonized. So you need to amend. So you need a brand new ROC, District Councils Act. You need a brand new Urban Councils Act. So our councillors, urban councillors, all councillors are just there nominally. Local authorities are just an extension, a department in the Ministry of Local Government.
In your submission, so therefore we should not have councillors in office, should we?
No, we should change the law. We should change the law so that the law is harmonized with the Constitution. So that the constitutional provision that says that local authorities are run by those that are elected by the people, by the citizen, run local authorities. At the present moment, local authorities are run by a bureaucrat called July Moyo, who has got an insatiable appetite for loot, who is running those local authorities.
When you were talking about workers, you spoke about their salaries that have been seriously eroded in this economy. Let us just pay attention to the workers for a moment. Is there any joy that is coming their way?
No. The salaries, can you imagine if you were earning 100,000 RTGS last week? Right now, it's nothing, it's meaningless. Whether you use the official exchange rate to have collapsed by 28% or use the parallel market, and we are all operating in the parallel market. So, which is why we are saying consistently, civil servants, pensioners must be paid in US dollars.
Government has come up with statutory instruments on collective bargaining, CBAs, and they have been pegging these. They've pegged most of these salaries in US dollars and said payable in RTGS at bank rate equivalent. Is this not enough protection?
It's stealing from people because the official rate is operating at a premium that is more than 200%. The official exchange rate is now 1,800, but the street exchange rate is now 4,500. So the difference between 4,500 and 1,800, which is over 200%, is a price, is a cost to the worker, which is why the mismanagement of the exchange rate and inflation are a theft on the working people. They put a premium on the working people, which is why when we talk about the economy, the starting point must be exchange control management and afotarai inflation management.
You also spoke.
Okay.
So you also just spoke about this issue around too much money chasing too few goods.
Yes.
But there's no demand. People don't have money. Businesses are struggling. So where's this too much money you're talking about?
It's within the reach. It's the companies that are doing contracts, the bankers that are supplying stationery to the government, that are supplying the fuel to the government, the elites that are privileged to get contracts to build power stations in places like Gwanda, and you know them. The bankers that have got, the few that have got access of money at the auction rate. So we are back to 2008 again, where we were all trillionaires, but poor trillionaires. And that's the tragedy of our situation, that ZANU-PF has taken us to the same space and place of desolation three times in less than 20 years.
In closing, Honorable Biti, or should I say Prophet Biti, what is your prediction? Well, as we go, what is going to happen from now on?
I think the exchange rate will move, and in no time at all it will reach 10,000. But as we go towards the election, it will be worse, because they're going to pump a lot of money to monetize election promises, to buy further vehicles, posters, printers, t-shirts, and so forth. So the monetary disequilibrium, the monetary imbalance, the fiscal imbalance will increase. But they're also going to try and do desperate measures to try and address the economy. So I think we'll go in an election when the economic headwinds are on us. They will try to paint a picture that everything is okay, but we know that everything is not okay. Even government parastatals are saying everything is not okay. Just read the recent report by the Prices Income Commission and by the Competition Commission, indictments on the government, on the government. The long and short of it is that we need new leaders, we need a new consensus, and we need the reforms. Number one, we have to dollarize. Number two, we have to float the Zimbabwean dollar so that it finds a market space. Number three, we have to scrap export surrender requirements. Number four, we have to scrap the auction. Number five, we have to live within our means. What I've always said, you eat what you kill. So fiscal consolidation is critical. Number six, we have to scrap the Reserve Bank, replace it with the currency board. Number eight, we have to fund the productive sectors. Number nine, we have to deal with corruption. Lastly, let's conclude. Let's deal with decisively with our debt question. Let's deal with gross capital formation.
Now, thank you very much, Honorable Biti. If you have any words outside what we have discussed that you want to talk to share with the people of Zimbabwe.
Yes, I think fellow citizens, please go and check your name in the voters roll. If you have not registered, please go and register. But check your name in the register, then wait for August. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for joining us on this, The Free Talk, with me, your host, Dara Blessed Mhlanga. And as usual, we ask and answer the critical questions here on this platform in proud partnership with the Frederick Newman Foundation for Freedom. And this, The Free Talk, on Heart and Soul TV and radio. Now, the economy is an issue and everyone is concerned. Everyone who cares about the future of their investment, cares about the future of their children and their children's children. Will the Zimbabwe dollar become a force to reckon with as it used to be, competing with the pound, competing with the US dollar, and being exchangeable on markets, on the financial markets across the length and breadth of this world? Now, this is The Free Talk with me, your host as usual, and always, Dara B. Thank you for joining me and my team.